The auction block of despair, the crimson sun of Valkara Prime, cast long shadows across the slave market's dusty courtyard. Metal chains clinked in the hot air as hundreds of beings from across the galaxy stood in cramped holding pens. The smell of fear and unwashed bodies hung heavy in the atmosphere. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the crowd, his weathered face hidden beneath a worn hood. He wasn't here by choice. His cargo ship had been impounded by the Zephyrian Empire for carrying illegal medical supplies to refugee colonies. Now he needed quick credits to buy his freedom, and his ship-backed dot in the center pen stood. A young woman unlike any he'd seen before. Her skin shimmered with a pale blue hue, and delicate silver markings traced patterns along her arms. Despite the heavy shackles around her wrists and ankles, she held her head high. Her violet eyes burned with defiance as potential buyers circled her like vultures. "This one's trouble," growled Vex, the slave trader, spitting into the dirt. Kitherian. Female. Strong as an ox, smart as a whip, but she's already killed 2 guards trying to escape. No one wants a fighter. The alien woman's name was Zara. She had been a botanist on her homeworld before the Zephyrian raids destroyed everything she loved. Her people were known for their connection to nature and their incredible strength, but the Empire saw them only as valuable slaves. A wealthy merchant stepped forward, examining Zara like livestock. "How much for the blue one?" 5,000 credits, Vex replied, his greedy eyes gleaming. Zara's jaw tightened. She understood their language perfectly, though she pretended not to. When the merchant reached out to touch her arm, she jerked away with lightning speed. "Don't touch me," she hissed in accented common tongue. The merchant stepped back, startled. "She speaks?" "Oh, she speaks all right." Vex laughed cruelly. "Speaks, fights, and causes nothing but problems. But look at those muscles. She could work the deep mines for decades." Jake found himself stepping closer. There was something about this woman that reminded him of his younger sister Emma, who had died fighting the Empire's expansion into human space. The same fierce spirit, the same refusal to bow down. "I'll take her," Jake said suddenly, surprising himself. Vex looked him up and down, noting Jake's simple clothes and battered appearance. "You got 5,000 credits, Spacer?" Jake reached into his jacket and pulled out a small pouch containing the last of his savings. 3,000. That's all I have." "Not enough," Vex sneered. Zara's eyes met Jake's across the dusty space. For a moment, something passed between them. Hope? Recognition? She couldn't be sure, but this human was different from the others. His eyes held sadness, not cruelty. 3,500, Jake pressed. "Final offer." Vex considered 4. A long moment, then shrugged. "Fine, but when she kills you in your sleep, don't come crying to me." As the shackles transferred to Jake's hands, Zara whispered so only he could hear, "I won't run. But I won't serve either." Jake nodded quietly. "I wouldn't expect you to." Unexpected kindness. Jake's ship, the Stellar Wind, was old but well maintained. As they walked up the cargo ramp, Zara prepared herself for the worst. Every slave owner she'd encountered had the same plans for her kind. But Jake simply led her to a small crew cabin and stopped at the door. "This is yours," he said, handing her the access key. "The lock works from the inside." Zara stared at the key in disbelief. "You're not chaining me?" "No point," Jake replied, heading toward the bridge. "If you want to leave, the airlock's that way. If you want to stay, there's food in the galley and clean clothes in the storage locker." For hours, Zara sat on the narrow bunk, staring at the unlocked door. This had to be a trick. Humans were supposed to be cruel, selfish creatures who cared only for profit. That's what the Empire taught. But Jake had left her completely free. When hunger finally drove her from the cabin, she found Jake in the ship's small galley, stirring something that smelled surprisingly good. He looked up as she entered, but didn't seem alarmed by her presence. "Hungry?" he asked, ladling the stew into 2 bowls. "It's not much, but it's real food. Not the protein paste they probably fed you." Zara accepted the bowl cautiously. The first paste made her eyes widen. It had been months since she'd eaten anything with actual flavor. "Why are you being kind to me?" Jake sat across from her at the small table. "My sister always said the measure of a person isn't how they treat their equals, but how they treat those who can't fight back. Where is your sister now?" Jake's face darkened, dead. The Empire bombed her colony when she refused to surrender. She was leading the evacuation of a children's hospital. Zara studied his weathered features, seeing the pain he tried to hide. "I'm sorry, so am I." Jake pushed his food around with his spoon. "I've been running cargo for 5 years, trying to help colonies the Empire targets. Medical supplies, weapons, whatever they need. But I'm just one man with one ship. The Empire killed my family too," Zara said quietly. "My entire research team. We were working on drought-resistant crops to help feed the outer worlds. They said our work was seditious." A comfortable silence fell between them. Outside the small porthole, stars streaked past as the ship jumped to hyperspace. "Where are we going?" Zara asked. "Freeport Station. It's neutral territory. I can drop you off there, give you some credits to start over." Zara considered this. Freedom had been her only goal for so long, but now she found herself curious about this strange human. "What if I don't want to be dropped off?" Jake looked surprised. "You want to stay?" "I want to know more about this cargo you run. These colonies you help." Zara's violet eyes hardened with determination. "The Empire took everything from me. Maybe it's time I took something back." Jake studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Slowly. The work is dangerous. The Empire has bounties on ships like mine. If we're caught, then we don't get caught," Zara replied firmly. For the first time since boarding, Jake smiled. "My sister would have liked you." As they finished their meal, both felt something shifting between them. Not ownership or servitude, but partnership. 2 souls damaged by the same enemy, finding strength in each other. "Tomorrow, I'll show you how the ship works," Jake said. "If you're going to be crew, you need to know everything." Zara nodded, feeling hope bloom in her chest for the first time in months. She was no longer a slave. She was free, and she was going to fight back. Bonds forged in fire 3 weeks into their partnership. Everything went wrong. The stellar wind had just delivered medical supplies to a mining colony when Imperial ships dropped out of hyperspace. 3 destroyers surrounded them before Jake could even reach the pilot's seat. "This is Commander Thorne of the Imperial Navy," came the cold voice over the comm. "Prepare to be boarded." In the cargo hold, Zara quickly activated the hidden compartments they built to conceal contraband. Her Catherian strength made moving the heavy panels effortless. Jake rushed to the bridge, his hands flying over the controls. "Can we run?" Zara asked, joining him at the navigation station. Jake shook his head grimly. "Not with 3 destroyers. We'll have to bluff our way out." The boarding party consisted of 6 Imperial Marines, led by a stern-faced lieutenant. They swept through the ship with military precision, their scanners searching for anything illegal. Jake maintained his cover as a simple cargo hauler, while Zara pretended to be his indentured servant. "Transport papers," the lieutenant demanded. Jake handed over forged documents that identified their cargo as agricultural equipment. The lieutenant studied them with suspicious eyes. "Funny thing about agricultural equipment," he said slowly. "It doesn't usually leave radiation signatures consistent with medical isotopes." Zara felt her heart skip a beat. They'd been caught. "I think you gentlemen need to leave my ship," Jake said calmly. his hand moving toward the blaster at his hip. "I think not," the lieutenant replied, drawing his own weapon. "You're both under arrest for smuggling." What happened next surprised everyone, including Zara herself. Moving with inhuman speed, she disarmed the nearest Marine and used him as a shield. Her people's enhanced reflexes made her a blur of motion as she struck two more guards. Before they could react, Jake drew his blaster and fired, stunning another Marine. "The airlock!" he shouted. They fought their way through the corridors, Zara's strength and speed complementing Jake's tactical knowledge. When they reached the docking tube, Jake sealed the emergency doors and activated the separation sequence. "You just made us fugitives," he panted as the ship pulled away from the Imperial vessels. "We already were fugitives," Zara replied, checking her bruised knuckles. "Now they just know it." The destroyers opened fire, but Jake had already plotted their escape route. The stellar wind dove toward the system's asteroid field, using the floating rocks as cover. Zara took the co-pilot seat and proved surprisingly good at navigation. "Left 20 degrees, she called out, reading the sensor display. "Large asteroid at 2 o'clock. Jake banked hard, the ship's hull scraping against ancient rock. Behind them, one of the destroyers wasn't as lucky. It clipped an asteroid and spun out of control. "Nice flying," Zara said as they cleared the field. "Nice fighting," Jake replied. "Where did you learn to move like that?" "All Cytherians are fighters when we need to be. But I've never fought beside someone I trusted before." As they jumped to hyperspace, both realized something fundamental had changed. They were no longer just partners of convenience. They had saved each other's lives, fought as one. Trust had been forged in the heat of battle. "We can't go back to the colonies now," Jake said. "They'll be watching for us." Zara smiled, her violet eyes bright with excitement. "Then we'll have to find a different way to fight them." The Empire had tried to break them both, but instead had created something stronger. Together, they would become a force the Empire never saw coming. Love in the darkness months of running from Imperial forces had brought Jake and Zara closer than either had expected. Living in the cramped confines of the stellar wind, they learned each other's habits, fears, and dreams. What started as partnership had grown into something deeper. It was during a supply stop at a remote trading post that everything changed. They were loading black market weapons when Imperial agents ambushed them. In the firefight, Jake took a blaster bolt to the shoulder, the energy beam burning through his jacket and into flesh. Zara fought like a demon to get him back to the ship, her Cytherian strength allowing her to carry his weight while still returning fire. Once aboard, she sealed the hatch and took the pilot's seat, her hands shaking as she lifted off. "Stay with me," she whispered, glancing back at Jake, who had collapsed on the cargo deck. They found shelter in an abandoned mining station deep in an asteroid field. Zara used the ship's medical kit to treat Jake's wound, her usually steady hands trembling as she cleaned the burned flesh. "I'm okay," Jake assured her, though his face was pale with pain. "You could have died," Zara replied, her voice thick with emotion. "Because of me, because I wanted to fight them." Jake reached up with his good arm and touched her cheek. "I chose this fight too. We're in it together." Something broke inside Zara at those words. All the walls she'd built around her heart crumbled. "I can't lose you," she whispered. "I can't lose anyone else I care about." "You won't," Jake promised. That night, as Jake slept fitfully in the medical bay, Zara stood guard. She realized with startling clarity that somewhere between the slave auction and this moment, she had fallen in love with this brave, foolish human. The thought terrified her. When Jake woke the next morning, he found her sitting beside his bed, her violet eyes red from crying. "What's wrong?" he asked, struggling to sit up. "Everything," Zara replied. "I was supposed to be strong, independent, I swore I'd never depend on anyone again after my family died. Jake took her hand in his. Loving someone doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger, does it? Zara looked at their joined hands. Because right now, I feel more vulnerable than I ever did in chains. That's because love is the most dangerous thing in the universe, Jake said softly. It makes you care about something more than your own life. Zara met his eyes. Is that what this is? Love? Instead of answering with words, Jake pulled her down and kissed her. The kiss was gentle at first, then desperate, as if they were both trying to pour months of unspoken feelings into a single moment. When they broke apart, Zara rested her forehead against his. I love you too, she whispered, even though it scares me. Good, Jake replied, smiling despite his pain. It should scare you. Means you understand how precious it is. Outside their hidden sanctuary, the Empire continued its ruthless expansion. But inside the damaged ship, two souls found something worth fighting for. Not just justice or revenge, but hope. Hope for a future where love could flourish without fear. As Jake's wound healed over the following days, their relationship deepened. They talked through the long nights, sharing childhood memories and impossible dreams. Zara told him about Cytherian bonding rituals, while Jake described Earth's simple wedding ceremonies. When this war is over, Jake said one evening as they watched stars through the viewports, where do you want to go? Zara considered the question. Somewhere green. Somewhere I can grow things again. I know a place, Jake replied. A little colony on the rim. They need farmers and engineers. And you? What do we need? Jake smiled, pulling her closer. Each other? That's all we've ever needed. The price of freedom, their love story, might have ended there, in the quiet safety of hidden asteroids. But the universe had other plans. A distress signal from the colony of New Haven changed everything. The Empire was conducting population relocations. A euphemism for mass slavery. We have to help them, Zara said, studying the transmission. Jake nodded, though his face was grim. It's a trap. Has to be. They're using the colony as bait. Then we spring the trap on our terms. They spent 3 days planning, using every contact Jake had built over 5 years of smuggling. When the stellar wind dropped out of hyperspace above New Haven, it wasn't alone. 24 ships had answered their call, smugglers, pirates, and rebels united against the Empire. The battle was fierce but brief. Imperial forces had expected one ship, not a fleet. They were overwhelmed before reinforcements could arrive. But victory came at a cost. During the fighting, Zara's position was overrun. Jake watched in horror as Imperial Marines surrounded her. Without hesitation, he abandoned his own cover and ran to help her, taking multiple blaster hits in the process. They fought back to back in the colony's central plaza, Jake's tactical knowledge complementing Zara's raw strength. Together, they held the line until reinforcements arrived. When the shooting stopped, Jake collapsed. The medical team worked frantically, but the damage was too severe. As Zara knelt beside him, Jake's eyes found hers. Did we win? He whispered. We? Won, Zara replied, tears streaming down her face. The colony is free. Jake smiled, his hand finding hers. Good, that's good. Don't you dare die on me? Zara pleaded. Not now. Not when we finally have a chance at that future you promised. The future was never about us surviving, Jake said softly. It was about making sure others could live free. You taught me that. I didn't teach you anything, Zara protested. You saved me. Jake's grip tightened on her hand. No, you saved me. From the moment I saw you on that auction block, refusing to bow down, you saved me from being just another bitter man. As the colony's medical team worked to stabilize him, Jake looked up at the sky where his fellow rebels were already jumping to hyperspace, carrying freed slaves to safety. Promise me something. he whispered. Anything. Keep fighting. Not for revenge, but for the dream. The dream of a galaxy where no one has to bow down. Zara kissed his forehead. I promise. Jake survived barely, but his injuries ended his days as an active smuggler. Instead, he and Zara established a new kind of rebellion, a network of safe houses and supply lines that helped freed slaves build new lives. On their wedding day, held in a grove of Catherian flowering trees that Zara had planted, Jake made a speech that captured their extraordinary journey. They tried to make her a slave, he said, looking at his bride. Instead, they created the fiercest freedom fighter the galaxy has ever seen. And somehow, miraculously, she chose to love a broken-down cargo pilot. Zara smiled, her violet eyes bright with joy. You were never broken. You just needed someone to remind you how to fight for something instead of against everything. Their story became legend among the resistance, proof that love could bloom even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. And that sometimes the greatest victories came not from grand battles, but from one person choosing to see the humanity in another. In the years that followed, their children would grow up free, never knowing the weight of chains. And in the gardens that Zara planted on a dozen worlds, former slaves would find not just food, but hope, the same hope that two unlikely lovers had kindled in each other among the stars.